I like that everybody has come with chai time and coffee time. So, okay. So, hi everybody. I am Nihit Bhave. Welcome to Box Sessions with the Red Sparrow. And we are going to start this off once again with the lovely creators of Badhaai Do, which I believe is one of the best films to have come out of our industry in the recent past. Big ups to them for making this happen. And I just wanted to start by the very basic question about the genesis of the idea and how it came about, and whether it was a spiritual sequel to Badhai Ho or which came first, and a little bit from Akshat and Suman about how they came up with it and at what point did other people start coming in.
So basically, Akshat and I go a long way back since our advertising days. So
Okay.
when we both moved to Bombay, so we started, jamming on ideas, and I used to throw whatever random stuff that I'm thinking to Akshat. And so in one of those jamming session, we hit upon this idea, and that's how it started. So that was the genesis of the idea. So it was one of those
Nice.
jamming sessions that we thought of, what if a gay guy and a lesbian girl, what if they think of having a sham marriage, and what all can be the repercussions of that.
Okay.
So
Okay, nice. And was this around the time of had Badhai Ho happened by now, or
No,
like?
Badhaai
Okay,
hadn't happened, and Badhaai was still in pre-production.
okay, okay.
This film was never called Badhaai Do.
Yeah, I was actually, that's so, like, you lucked into the most perfect title ever.
Yeah.
And like, a question along with that is, are you stuck with the third part because it can't be Badhai team? So
No, no. I mean, no one's really thinking about that. I mean, in fact, this one was never called Badhaai Do. So it just so happened that it felt as if it might just fit into that. If you create a franchise, then it might
yeah,
just. Otherwise, it's an absolutely independent film of what Badhaai was. The only common
of
link is
course.
probably me and Sheeba ma'am here.
Yeah, I'm going to come to that soon.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
that's the thing. But it was it, once we got the idea, then we kind of developed it. And because I was already doing Badhaai with Jungli Pictures, so it was very natural for me to kind of approach them with this idea. And then we
Okay.
started developing the idea. We wrote a draft. We were actually writing it as a series earlier. Then we started
Oh,
writing
okay.
it as a film. And then we wrote a draft, and then Jungli took it to Harsh, and then Harsh
Okay.
read it. He liked parts of it, but he wanted to kind of rework a lot of it. So that's when we started jamming together, all three of us, and then
Okay.
the rest,
Okay.
Harsh can tell you how it went from there.
Super. I just want to add to that. I don't know whether this was like cosmic coincidence or what, but I love that for a film which like sort of is talking about normalizing LGBTQ communities and coming out and this and that. Your film is called Badhai Do. You're actually congratulating them on coming out, and it works on many levels. The title has something like in the stars, I think. So great job on that. But yeah, coming to Harshvardhan, would you care to elaborate on like how what you felt about it when you read the first time, and what was it that attracted you to it?
Actually, when Anup has been in touch with me for a while. I think when it was
Yeah.
even being pitched as a series, he wanted to, show me that script. And
Yeah.
then when it was a feature film, so I actually, when the plot was told to me, I wasn't so kicked about it at all. I mean, I was okay.
Okay.
It's okay.
Okay.
And it felt a little too far fetched for me, and I because I didn't know about the reality part of it,
Yeah.
that such marriages do happen and all of that.
Yeah.
But then I ended up reading it, and I really loved the writing of Akshat and Suman. I mean, I really loved the
Yeah.
humor, and I loved the style. And then when I kind of met, I think Anup, and again, I don't know, we had some discussion before I said yes. It was a long time. But then, we started discussing about this whole concept, and it was kind of, one particular insight was told to me then was, that when a queer person comes out of the closet, it's not the end of it. It's a continual process. they just keep coming out of the closet for several times,
Yeah.
and the closet just keeps getting bigger and bigger, that the family ends up getting into the closet with them, or the friends
Yeah.
get, and they just become bigger. So that for me felt very tragic in a way. I mean, it somehow felt this concept has so much more to actually explore. And that's
Yeah.
when the three of us actually started then jamming again, all over again. And yeah, the world then, which was written, was a little smaller. Yeah. So we just kind of opened up the characters more, their professions.
Okay.
I mean, I think PT teacher, so she was a PT teacher always. But then I
Yeah.
think the man's profession, we just kind of changed that profession, and somehow
Okay.
we ended up making a man in the uniform being queer, and
Thank
all
you.
of that, happy accidents.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, consciously, but they started
Yeah.
happening, once we started sitting and exploring that world. So that actually for me was the most exciting thing, when we started
Super.
exploring it, and then we started kind of falling, I
Yeah.
mean, finding the voice and those characters.
Nice. Nice. So, just coming to talking about the characters, I also want to know from Sheba ma'am, how was it to like go through a narration of this, or like, do you know when a script like this comes across, do you just know that this is a thing that you have to be part of, no matter in what role, no matter in what capacity, and especially having been part of the first film, even though nothing is similar, what was your sort of reaction to this?
Internet
Yeah, it's just frozen.
And class,
than Harsh.
This is this is the character. Are you in character? You just looked up and it froze. I think best answer of the
Yeah.
panel.
Is it okay now? Can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
okay. Yeah.
So after that grand entry, say, yeah, well, one, of course, the script, which what it is
Yeah.
fabulous. Then the character, which I don't think I
Yeah.
it was a great I mean, the thing for me, I think the real in for me is of course the first, the premise of the story, and in terms of baby, it is her unusual motherness, the kind of
Yeah.
mother that um,
Yeah.
uh, was an amazing thing, because I was doing two films of Jungli back to back,
Okay.
so I'm doing Dr. G, in which again I play that mom of the. I said, okay, क्या ही अलग होगा तो मैं कुछ तो mother, but my God, just her non-doing, and in the other one she's such a doing mother, that is such a difference. And her non-doing is of a particular kind, and I think we've all seen people like this in our lives, in some intensity or shade, people who would rather have somebody else do the thing. For me, it's not just her simplicity, her sweetness, her innocence. Of course, those are ins. But for me, the real hook to baby was, I think it's the way they. I don't know what are the words that Akshat and Harsh used, but it just gave me such a sense of her being a reluctant doer of anything. कि
Yeah.
कोई और कर ले. And that
Yeah.
thing, such a beautiful new thing to sort of get your teeth into a character,
Correct. Yeah.
Such
Yeah.
interesting detail, so unusual, and it calls
Yeah.
a lot out of you on one level, because the rest of it is written in a way which is so. Some places is almost slapstick. Some places is just over the top. The stuff that
Yeah.
her not knowing, her slowness is
Yeah.
up sometimes. So
Yeah.
to how to maintain the thing of that as well, and the non-doing as well, and not end up looking like she's a complete, like inko to abhi bharti kar do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I want
so
no, no.
fun.
I want to talk a lot more about the character. I'll come back to you. But at the same time, I just want to also know from Anup about the whole process of this sort of a film coming to Jungli, and just what goes into greenlighting it. I'm assuming some of the people who are coming here are also writers and filmmakers and trying to start out. So it's quite like I mean, in hindsight, it's not a think that should have had any problems because these are the realities of life. But given the kind of industry we are in, given the kind of censorship that is going on right now, just a little bit from you about like what went into pushing this film internally and stuff like that.
Right. So what works obviously the best is a high concept comedy, and we were making Badhaai Ho with again Akshat, and loved his writing. So and he had already written this one with Suman, and when we read it, of course it has a great high concept to it, and a superb log line. So and that always works well the most. And even the script was so hilarious, so it was a no-brainer for us to to not greenlight it. We just and it was, as Akshat mentioned, it was a series then, a six-part episode series, and we were trying to this was I guess 2017, or yeah, towards the end of 17, 18 kind of a time, and we were trying to do trying to get into digital at that time. But when we read the whole material, and it just felt like, why not a film, because it's so strong and so funny.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that always works. And of course, there we know the risk, but the idea was always that we don't want to go overboard with the kind of in your face activism or anything, because if there is a social messaging and all that, which is which was neatly done in the script, that which was quite different from what became after Harsh came on board, but it was still in that kind of ethos. So and that's what we, of course, we want to push someone up in terms of what
Correct. Yeah.
new, and
So that actually also leads me into like, was there a point where did you guys ever think that, okay, we are pushing the envelope too much with this commercially, and just in case of like, how much to show, how much to not show, what areas to go into, what areas to not go into? Because the film not only tries to normalize and does normalize LGBTQ relationships, but you have casting, path breaking casting like Chum, and you're batting for adoption, like you're doing so many things within one film which are sort of subjects that may have their own films altogether. So at any point did you guys internally in Jungly, and then later obviously I want to ask this to Harsh and the writers and Sheba ma'am, that was there a point where you're like, अरे बहुत कर रहे हैं, थोड़ा pull back करते हैं?
on script level, I mean, the script does go through a lot of iterations and everything. So by the end, but it became everything that you mentioned. Those are the things that make the film wholesome. Because otherwise, ladka ladki, sham marriage, everything, and what you do with it, and as they have structured the film, it was very organic, that where it was going through. On Chum's casting, again, I mean, the Akshat actually had written a northeastern female part for Badhaai Ho initially, and somehow it didn't go there, and he kind of very organically fitted this one, and so there was no hesitation with that. I mean, character or role as such. Because it fitted well into the whole story and the gags later. Yeah, I mean, of course, the idea was, because it is a so-called sensitive, kind of topic. So idea was never to offend anyone, and which is why we had done a good amount of due diligence for that. That we had done a proper narration with a lot of people from the community, and then we had still considered Manish on board for us to go through everything. So that was the main key, that we didn't want, because of course while we were making this film, we knew that there are other films also being made. So the idea was, okay, now we have to be different, but also be sure of what we are putting forward. Of course, and not offend people at the same time.
Super. Okay. Also, then to Akshat and Suman and Harsh, was there like a conscious decision to maybe not show intimacy between the same-sex partners on screen? Would that take away from the viewership or the way people looked at it, or was that like a writing decision to just, because in a way songs like Atak Gaya Hai and Humse Seedhe Saadhe work so wonderfully that you already get that sense of love that is between the characters? But was it a conscious decision to sort of not maybe have them kiss or see them in a intimate space inside their room as characters?
Harsh, up.
Yes, I mean, I mean, absolutely. It was a very conscious decision. Yeah, the big, I mean, a few more things that, so that it will come to that particular point is, when we were writing, there weren't so many apprehensions to say. And actually, we started writing much earlier than we didn't even know that other films existed, which were kind of in the similar space, LGBTQI. So for us, in our own head, we were the first. We were the first which were going to be a commercial film and all of that. But at that particular moment, we had this concrete discussion that, the first thing would be is the novelty factor of having characters who are LGBTQ, queer people. And they come out and that's it. So that's the climax, they were always hiding and they just came out. That is kind of, normalizing, kind of trying to bring in some empathy, trying to get audiences understand, all of that is fine. I think right in the beginning, we had discussed that we shouldn't be just at that surface level. We should go beyond, much beyond that, and not knowing that some other films are going to come in. So even if we were going to be the first film, we were going to explore all these things because, actually it had ended up when we were discussing a lot was about, it can't be just a customary tick, that it was such a novelty thing and we just kind of explored it. No, we were wanting to make it human. We wanted it to be normalized to such an extent that, finally when people are walking out, they're not just understanding people or, saying, I get it, but go one step beyond and probably become allies, become that support system. And that can happen only if you take a journey through a lot of other complications too. So that's one part of it which starts off.
Okay.
So in that itself, what has happened is most of the times when we always used to think about it, the biggest primary concern, the stereotyping always is of the way characters are, queer people, the way they've been portrayed. And the second thing is it's always about them being extremely sexual, sexual beings. The idea was, yes, they do, but the point is there is much more than that. There is so much of companionship. There is so much of love. There is so much of romance. And that nobody was getting it, I mean, that was the primary, that's why, it's not because we were scared of an A certificate or, because we didn't know what it was supposed to be while writing. We made this conscious decision while writing that we are going to keep it more romantic and let people get that, in that old world charm where you would see a boy and girl romancing, always a heterosexual couple romancing with the same song and drama and all of that, those beautiful songs, these lyrical songs and the slow motion shots, all those tropes. We just wanted to do it with the same sex. So, and let's enjoy that touch, that caress, that, it's just those sensitive moments. What happens in the bedroom, let's leave it aside. We can all understand, imagine, and do all of that. So this was not again to put off people, but to show another side of that. So that was why we did that.
And I think it has landed beautifully. But Akshat, please continue.
Pretty much the heteronormative gaze is through the sexuality. If any stigmatization is there, that's because of the sexuality. So even the scene where Summi speaks to Rimjim for the first time and she tells her that's just a part of our lives. Correct, that is not everything about us. So that was the idea, that you kind of explore more aspects of their lives, their inner lives much more than the physical aspect of the relationship, which was pretty much the guiding principle for us to kind of move ahead.
Okay.
No, also just to add to it, we have all seen, movies which are like, say, Call Me by Your Name, or warmest color is blue. Blue is the warmest color, sorry. But so it makes very unidimensional. It makes it a very unidimensional space. So like Harsh sir was saying, so because of exploring the other things, it becomes multi-dimensional. The characters are doing lots when on a professional level, at a romantic level. So there is much more meat to the character.
Yeah, and I think it's landed also because like you said, you just aren't looking at a gay person as a gay person. You're looking at their job, you're looking at their family, you're looking at the other risks that they have in life. So I think that lands also beautifully. I want to ask you and Suman and Akshat, what are the kind of sort of questions and apprehensions, or just like what is the kind of research, if you can say in brief, that went into talking to consultants, and what are the kind of sort of more than what are the do's that were on your head, what are the don'ts that you were worried about, that this is the kind of thing that I probably don't want to do, so let me talk to a consultant and get the facts right. What were those sort of questions that you asked Manish or the other people that you were narrating the screenplay to in the early process?
The don'ts was primarily we not lampooning any of the queer characters in the film. So that we were very aware of. I mean, Harsh, Suman, and I, we were very aware of the fact that the jokes will not be at the expense of the characters. The jokes will be because of their idiosyncrasies and the people that they are, more than their orientation. So that was primarily the don'ts, if we can say. And the do's were basically, we were kind of exploring it. I mean, we were kind of discussing things amongst ourselves, and then we were largely ratifying things with Manish. We were kind of running them past Manish. What do you think about this? How does it happen? I mean, what are parties like? Where do people get meet, and how do, I mean, just the fact that how do people get to understand that, yeah, the other person might be interested, because all these things were very, to a degree, were very alien to us. So those were the kind of things that we were kind of asking Manish. And then we also had a, like Anup told you, we had a narration to a bunch of people from the community, and they kind of had their feedback, I mean, there was a little bit of disagreement with certain things that were there in that draft, and we kind of discussed it with them and kind of tried to incorporate whatever they had, the problems that they had with the script. So that was pretty much the process.
Examples are there, right? I mean, like if something which was read by Akshat and Suman, and for that particular scene where he's watching a wrestling match alone, and she commenting, which is, we were wanting to know much more, like the inside jokes and the inside world. So that's where the thing came from, or such a gay thing. And then that became a scene in the end where he's concerned about his own nephew being queer or something of that sort. So it was very interesting. So these are the kind of examples, and which we would kind of discuss with him. And we would get a feedback that this is good enough and this is correct enough. And even during the discussion with the whole queer community, who had read the script, so there was a discussion which we actually then tweaked it, right? I mean, that when they want to have kids, and so they had a problem with why is everybody wanting to have kids? I mean, it's such an, again, heteronormative way of looking at it. So which is why Guru, we made him, where he's saying, yaar, mujhe junior Thakur mein interest nahi hai, mujhe senior mein. So that kind of, took care of it. And it never ended. It never ended at this, actually. Even when we made the film, and we kind of shot it, all of that edit had happened, there were certain reactions about, if you remember, there's a sequence that we did on purpose, is when Suman and Shardul get drunk and they get into the car and they are about to kiss, when he just said. So this was basically, again, made in such a beautiful Bollywood tropes, where it's going to rain, it's going to be wet, it's going to be romantic music, it's going to all happen, and they're going to be finally cured. That's what homophobics are always going to be hoped for. So we were
voting for it,
so we were teasing them. And then finally, we had shot two versions. One where they did kiss. I mean, they just kissed and then they came out. And there was a beautiful scene after that where they're out of disgust, they're just brushing their teeth. So it was a very funny cut. And people would just crack up laughing. But our whole film never had any kiss. So the problem was, why do you have a heterosexual kiss?
Correct.
You never showed anything. So we actually kept the other option where they just come closer and they just come out. So we sacrificed that brushing one, but we did kind of see that we're taking care so that anything which is going to offend or be taken in the wrong sense, we can kind of build. So that was the only amount of consulting that happened actually. Otherwise, it was all purely research and empathy and understanding from our own.
Correct. No, like there are really specific things which I assume that must have come out of the consulting session, like the whole versatile joke. It is, people still don't get, like, I don't think more than the LGBTQ community people must have got it, but so nice to see a moment like that in a mainstream Hindi film that I'm buying a ticket to and watching in the theater. So, stuff like that. And even like with, I won't say stereotypes, but like how Rimjim and Sumi move in within days of meeting each other. That's like a big stereotype about lesbian relationships. And I assume that these are the kind of things that must have come out of it also, right?
No, like, I mean, like Chum's character, she says that.
Chum, I thought, it was more spunky and intuitive.
Like Chum's character, she tells Sumi that her sister doesn't even allow her niece to come close to her these days. That was something that Suman and Harsh had met someone, and she told them about the similar scenario at her home. So, which is something that we thought that this is so lonely as it's an experience of such sheer loneliness. I mean, and the disgust that the family feels for her because of her orientation. So we kind of thought, let's incorporate that into the script straight away, the way it is. So there were things like those, but it was basically, most of it was basically ratifying it and trying to kind of understand if these things really work or they don't. And if you get nuggets which are this precious, then you put them in the script in the form that they are in.
Sure. Okay. Good. So from there, I want to just come on to some of the scenes that I really like. I'm waking and sleeping with because I've seen the movie a couple of times now, and I just wanted to get a sense of whether there were scenes and whether there were parts in the screenplay that were difficult to crack, difficult to write, and at the same time from Harsh, whether they were difficult. Were there some scenes that were difficult to direct? I specifically want to start with the scene where Bhumi comes out because to her father in the shop, and I just want to know a little bit about the process of understanding that situation, understanding what exactly goes into a person coming out to their father, and what were the kind of sort of variations you tried, or what were the kind of discussions, because it's perfect. I think everybody I've spoken to has had that moment in their life when they've come out. So I just want to know a little bit about that scene, and then I want to come to Sheeba ma'am's scene with Rajkumar on the terrace. But let's start with the Bhumi scene with her father.
Yeah, so I mean, when we wrote it, so she's coming out in the sense she's already been caught. So so she's just kind of. So I think what we had discussed even while writing, actually the dialogues we kind of kept reiterating, right?
We kind of rewrote.
We kind of kept changing it. We were kind of trying to figure out where to land, and finally we ended up with that particular thing where she kind of has always imagined that such a situation is going to come one day or the other, maybe caught, or she's going to come and tell them. And she's always imagined that her mother is going to be violent with her reaction. Her brother is going to be obviously immature and react the way he is reacting. But deep down in her own visualization, she would have always felt and imagined that her father would actually be the one who would understand her and say, it's okay. Yeah. And she is kind of telling him that and then seeking, are you okay or not? And he's still silent. And that's what is crushing her even more. But then his silence is also because he's a father. I don't mind you venting it out, is what she finally tells him. It's okay, even if you don't be the same father, you can vent it out. But at least just to keep my heart, I mean, just bolo. So that was, I think, a process that we did struggle with it. But then when we came out, when we knew that this was genuinely the most beautiful way of probably having a conversation with the father, because we have kind of shown the father to be a friendlier person, and where she kind of shared a relationship where she could talk freely with him. So but I mean, finally it's not that easy, right? I mean, he does say,
Correct,
and
yeah.
he does his own line felt like it's kind of a
Yeah.
disease, you know, and that crushes her even more. I mean, so
Yeah, I mean that gut punch is what I
Hmm.
think makes the scene the most
Hmm.
relatable, the most sort of realistic one in the context of coming out,
Yeah.
because like that lands very well. And I also wanted to know from Sheeba ma'am about the scene where Rajkumar comes out or is made to come out and in defense of Bhumi. Now, with Bhumi and her father, there are lines, because there is something to work with. But this is a silent scene on the terrace, and yet it connects so well. So, what is the sort of preparation or what is the sort of thought process you went into it with? And just tell us a little bit about that scene.
No preparation. Yeah.
Okay.
But I think that same day only, Harsh, we had done the coming
Yeah.
out,
Yeah,
and then
yeah. We immediately did both of them together. So it was in
Sequentially,
sequence.
okay.
it was quite. I just do remember one thing, that when I come only on the set that day, we had sat down to sort of rehearse or position or block. The energy of Raj, that day was something else. Just, of course, everybody knew what is the zone of that scene, and we knew that this is it's like the quintessential core of the film in one sense. Okay? And yet there was something in the actor Raj that was so you didn't need words with him that like that.
Yeah.
The words that he's sitting in front, and I loved it that the way I was positioned
Yeah.
by Harsh. It was just,
Yeah, you were the only one behind him. Yeah.
yeah, because अपन जो सामने बैठ के भी वो क्या ही कर लेंगे, पीछे बैठ के सामने बैठ के that
Oh, the way I read it was she's the only one who has his back. But yeah, I'm sure that was the
Yeah, I
intention
mean,
also.
yeah, you can analyze it.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's always
Yeah.
been the.
Correct. Yeah.
but
I mean, even in the doctor's thing, she was sitting behind. So
Yeah.
you know,
She's
she's
the
always
backbencher in the family.
backbencher.
She's a
That's what she
backbencher.
is.
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah, and to sit behind the son and to sense
Yeah.
him saying all that,
Yeah.
I don't think she comprehends, right? Doesn't
Yeah.
that really mean? And then the terrace scene, it's it's just a mother soothing her child. For me, it was
Yeah.
pure that. I don't think in any sense of the thing she really understands or is even so much interested in going there as to what are the ramifications, how does it change her equation, his equation with the world. These are complicated knots that I don't think her character would sort of want to even engage with. It's a it's very simple, I feel, for her. It's her child is in distress, she's the mother, and she will be there, and that's all she wants to do. She wouldn't even know to do the opposite, because that would be such a sharp reaction or such a sharp
From her, yeah.
to say no, it's not okay is an opinion too strong.
Yeah.
Just knows the call or the pull of the child,
She
and
just has to be there, yeah.
and that whatever it is, मतलब अच्छा है, बुरा है, ठीक है, mediocre है, average है, ये तो है और मैं तो हूँ. It was purely that, and I think on the terrace it was just really, you just respond to your co-actor. I had just come with the thought that she will not. There's no knowingness. There's no knowing her of anything. It is just response, and you respond to as your character to your co-actor. And I think then Raj, being Raj, he's just so. I mean, that was another day. I think another zone, and you just respond to it, and it's just the previous so beautifully any which way. So that's just set the tone of what's to follow so beautifully. So you don't have to do that. They've done it for you.
Okay. And Akshat and Suman, I also want to know whether that scene in the park where Sumi is being proposed to by Raj's character, was that like intentionally done, like कि एक तो proposal वाला scene डाल देते हैं, but in this hilarious way where he's convincing her कि हम रक्षा भी कर लेंगे and stuff. That's the other scene that I really love. So please tell us a little bit about that.
So रक्षा भी कर लेंगे तो राज की लाइन है improvised.
Oh, acha. But with the arm thing and everything.
Yeah.
Super.
So,
Yeah.
but the thing was, that's why there is a setup. I mean, the first scene where he's out with the Romeo squad, police Romeo squad in the park, and kind of catching these kids who are in the park kind of together. And then
Yeah.
he also kind of meets. They also kind of get hold of these two guys, and then he kind of sends them away. And
Yeah.
so the idea was to set it up like that, show him like everything that the queer community faces in terms of police atrocity, or say the kind of way that you see authority figures looking at people from the queer community, and then bring him into that same kind of scenario, and
Okay.
and have him propose to a girl and kind of reveal his identity to her, and that's the first time
Yeah.
that you get to know about the character. And the moment
Yeah.
he kind of utters the word that hum bhi samlaingik hai, another guy who's a junior to him, he kind
Yeah.
of pops up.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
he's like shit scared at that moment कि यार मतलब ये तो गड़बड़ हो गया कुछ मामला, मैंने पहली बार अटर करा और कोई आ गया. So
Yeah.
so वो हमेशा मतलब हम लोग जब नरेट भी करते थे तो उसमें बहुत laughs वगैरह हमें शुरू से मिलते थे उसमें, because just because it's a very weird situation for the character to be in.
Yeah.
So that was the idea behind that scene primarily, and then the fact that how does the girl react to him in that situation.
Okay.
So she asks him, "पर मैं कैसे मान लूं कि आप gay?" So and then
Yeah.
he's kind of dumbstruck कि यार मैं क्या बोलूं, मतलब इसका तो सर्टिफिकेट नहीं मिलता ना, वो सरकारी आदमी है तो उसके लिए सब कुछ पेपर कागज पत्तर है, तो वो ये बोलता है कि यार मेरे
वो
इसके
वैसे
सर्टिफिकेट
सोचता
नहीं
है.
मिलता ना.
हाँ.
और
Yeah.
मतलब and then one thing that Manish really liked in our first narration, he said that line really rings true कि अपने आप को गे कौन बोलता है, मतलब it's
हाँ.
thought of as such a stigma कि कौन
Yeah.
बोलेगा यार ये अपने लिए ये चीज. So he
हाँ.
after the narration he kind of came up to us and he said कि यार that line really rings true, कि आप ये बात छुपाते हो अपने बारे में, ये बताते
हाँ.
नहीं हो आप किसी को अपने बारे में in India.
Correct.
So that was pretty much how that thing was constructed. Suman,
Yeah. So basically वही है कि मतलब like you were saying कि एक तो दोनों पैरेलल ट्रैक चल रहे थे कि एक हम लोग को पता है कि ये पुलिस इंस्पेक्टर है, पर कहाँ पे पता चलेगा कि वो गे है. So it was like कि जहाँ पे when they meet, then that's when the audience gets to know that he's also something or he is also gay. तो उस तरह से that the screenplay was designed that that scene has to be really important, and to
Yeah.
get the humor out of it. So we have this guy who comes in between and who kind of budges in कि कौन है यहाँ पे, so he turns out to be his boss only. तो उस तरह से वो that scene was really important to the screenplay. So उसमें
Yeah.
हमने मतलब किस तरह से humor plus emotion रहे, humor रहे, उस तरह से हमने उसको construct किया.
Okay. Okay. Fair enough. I want to also just briefly discuss the super kooky characters, starting with Sheeba ji's character, obviously. What was on paper? What was on paper? I just want to know this.
It was all on paper.
No, but
They give you such order, no? These three. What
yeah.
there on paper fully. Like I said earlier, just the struggle for me was I did really find this role quite difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
me to like a little bit of a tightrope to walk that thing where it's honest, it's true, it's also sort of communicates or says that the lines that they have written, which in some places I was like, "Abhi ye kaise bolenge yaar?" And the one I think came to you with Harsh is the one where she meets the child.
The son. बच्चे इतने जल्दी बड़े हो जाते हैं.
Yeah.
और वो थोड़े 1 महीना भी कुछ नहीं हुआ दिन में, और वो आके वो बच्चा जिसका बोलते कि नाज़नीन का बच्चा है, तो वो तो 5 साल का है, तो वो देखिए इतने जल्दी बड़े हो जाते. It's just the leap of comic faith that you have to take, or whatever
Yeah.
faith you take for that. Yeah, so that was it. Just it's all there, but
Yeah. Because we've also seen you do a mother in previous things, and yet this it's so different, and it almost feels whimsical कि पता नहीं सेट पे आके सबको लगा कि इनको ऐसे यहाँ देखना है, वहां देखना है, और पता नहीं इनको शायद लाइंस याद नहीं है, पता नहीं कैसे हो रहा है. But it's so magical. It comes across so well. It's unlike any other mother that I've seen.
जैसे मेरी मम्मी जो है ना, मेरी
हाँ.
मम्मी को बेसिकली बहुत लोग, मतलब हमारे घर में जब हम लोग when we were growing up, there are a lot of people, so
हाँ.
they used to cook, you know, mostly
Yeah.
they used to cook, so she almost given up cooking, you know.
हाँ.
फिर लास्ट में मतलब अभी ऐसे है कि मतलब वो being very personal, hopefully my
Yeah.
mom is not watching this, तो जैसे वो अभी
मैं
खाना
बता
बना ही नहीं
दूंगा।
सकती, वो जब खाना
हाँ.
बनाती है तो हम लोग कोई खा नहीं सकते. So
Okay.
I think, you know, that's kind of example, you know, कि वैसा हो जाता है यार, जैसे लोग गाड़ी नहीं चला के गाड़ी, you know, when you buy a car and you are almost always dependent on someone else driving it, so you kind
Yeah.
of, you know, you become आलसी ना, यार छोड़ ना, कोई ना कोई तो चला ही लेगा, तो उस हिसाब से,
Yeah.
so that's the character growth, you know, or the
Nice.
growth you can say.
Yeah, nice.
No, but
Even
actually,
she gives out the
Neet,
list to Bhumi, and she's like, हाँ तुम पढ़ लो, तुम्हारे लिए ही तो है. Like that's such a great mother, because we want more mothers like this who don't give a damn, if I may say so.
no, but Neet,
Yeah.
actually, while writing, now we had a
Yeah.
ball writing this character and had so
Yeah.
much fun. We used to laugh so much and all of that. But at the
Mm.
same time, honestly, I mean, we all knew that this was a tough one to pull off. This one
Yeah.
was something which had, again, like, you know, it had a very thin line. You know,
Yeah.
you could otherwise kind of mistake her for some, like, she's a shirker, she's lazy, so many things are running parallel, plus she's slowed down because she's not worked for so many years, so
Yeah.
her skills have also become so slow, everything is, so it's a combination of it. So
Yeah.
and when we were writing in Shimla, actually the three of us, so Sheeba, this
Huh.
is for you, okay, we always thought nobody else can pull this off but her. So it's actually, see, writing a character is great. I mean, writing some
Yeah.
tough character and mad character and doing all of that is great. But I think pulling it off like what Sheba did
Yeah.
requires some other kind of skill set, because honestly, I mean, the I mean, it's not written where to pause. It's not written where to turn. It's not written where to do all of
Exactly.
that,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
just became slow. She was just in her own physicality was that. So it was
Yeah.
a joy whenever her scenes would be. We were shooting all of that. I mean, Akshat had to stop me, you know, from laughing loud because it was all sync sound. So I mean,
Yeah.
that chitti wala thing also has
Yeah.
happened between Akshat and her, because she said, "Yaar, kya points likhu?" And there and then they have come up with those 10 points. And honestly, if I had time, all those 10 points were hilarious. The last point was something ridiculous कि light भी बंद किया करो.
Oh,
So I think
पति को शर्म आती है, वो गाल on the spot, on the set.
on the spot they have actually written it in the side.
तो शिवा जी
And
मेरे को
I-
लेके गई साइड में, कहते
हाँ.
अब तुम अपने अंदर का जितना शोविनिस्ट है वो निकालो. जो तुम्हारी स्मॉल टाउन वो है मानसिकता, वो सब निकालो इस पेपर पे. तो हम लोग बैठे थे.
I mean,
Yeah.
it was genuinely, if anybody learns, I mean, just that thing when we had a track, Akshat, if you remember, you know, somebody's coming after that thing that he's made a plan on the terrace where he says ki ye banj hai. They cut to, they are going in a car and we're just doing a track and she is in the corner near
Yeah.
some gate and she's turned her back around and yes, chillati hai, baby. And she said, that's all the genius of Sheba. So I mean, nothing
Yeah.
is, you know, these. So what she brought, I mean, what she made of baby is just legendary. I think. I mean,
Yeah.
I think, yeah, we did come up with a cool character, but
Yeah.
it's
And
done
also
so
the
well.
risk of such a character being like almost irritating is very high. But I think she's endeared it to the people, which is so commendable. Congratulations on that, because you at no point feel that she's not important to the story or not important to Raj's life, because she's so endearing in the film. You just want to see it through her lens also, which I think is one of the great things.
In fact, I just
And
got a message from a friend who says कि क्या कहते हैं, that's my favorite character in the film.
yeah,
she's just
I'm
a little
sure
bit.
it's a lot of people's favorite character in the film. It's usually the ones who, like, Raj and Bhumi are relatable in a different sort of way, but this is a person we know in our lives. There is somebody like this in our lives. So I think that was great. The other character I also want to discuss is the Jijaji, who was just like on another trip, I think. The way he says inappropriate things in front of kids, the way he's just like so inappropriate throughout the film. Just give us a little peek, a brief peek into like writing that character.
Just look at Akshat.
I'm a natural at that. Of saying the most inappropriate things. I mean, we used to be kind of, Pratik would constantly keep on telling us, I mean, you guys are going to get into trouble on set because you say the most inappropriate things. But the idea was basically a guy who just doesn't have any filter. And and you meet a lot of people like that. I mean, a lot of friends. I mean, once they get drunk, I mean, they usually kind of come up with advice which is really not needed from them. So so that was the character pretty much. And एक हो जाता है, it's a household where there are only women, and here's a guy who's doing well amongst the son-in-laws. So he feels a little more entitled to kind of give that extra bit of suggestion to the कि साले को मैं बताता हूँ, मुझे समझाना चाहिए. So अगर if you see the couple, both him and his wife, they are a little more well off than उन लोगों का ये भी है कि वो थोड़े से upwardly mobile है, तो गाड़ी उनके पास है, सनग्लासेस उसकी बीवी लगाती है, अंग्रेजी के शब्द वो लोग इस्तेमाल करते हैं ज्यादा अपनी लैंग्वेज में. So and those are markers in terms of कि क्या कहते हैं यार, we are supposed to give you these suggestions. I mean, because we've kind of reached a certain stage in terms of our careers or the amount of money that we're making. So that was pretty much the character of Jijaji. In fact, I was supposed to be cast in that character, and thankfully good sense prevailed.
No, I think it would have been great if you are saying you say inappropriate. The way that person in the beginning says "kuch महसूस तो हो" or something, the entire theater has lost it. I think that's the
सेंसर कॉपी वाला है. एक्चुअली नेटफ्लिक्स वर्जन में अभी बराबर है जो ओरिजिनल है, कुछ हाथ में भी तो आया, कुछ ऐसा था.
ओह अच्छा. So चलो, one more viewing is necessary then, I think.
नहीं वही है, कुछ लोग मतलब पहले बोलते उसके बाद सोचते हैं. तो ये कैरेक्टर वो है जो मतलब वो बोलते हैं ना, स्थान काल पात्र देख के बोला करो. ये पूरा ये कुछ नहीं देखता.
Yeah. Nice. I want to quickly move on to Anup and Harsh. I kind of want to know two things. Whether this was always planned like a big musical, like it has come out as a mainstream with lots of songs and this and that. And was there like a marketing strategy behind it, or like what was the mix there? Who decided that it's going to be like proper PBS songs and like that sort of thing from Jungli's point of view? And then I want to come to Harsh and ask him about the making of the songs in brief. So I think we should start off with Anup ki क्या जरूरी था कि because we are making this film, they have to also do a Badhaai Do title track. They also have to do those romantic tracks. You also have to do 7 versions of, not 7, but like three versions of Atak Gaya Hai, 3 versions of this each. Was this like a marketing thing, or what? How was it going into that?
I mean, शादी गाना तो obviously because the whole thing is set around कि एक शादी होगा तो वहाँ पे that was written also on paper that there will be a शादी song. Romantic song was also some kind of placeholder, but obviously not the way that I mean, you don't know कि किस हिसाब से क्या गाना है. I mean, the way the songs have turned out, it's entirely Harsh, like the way he has thought and visualized, and even jamming with the composers and lyricists when they came on board, and Harsh kind of Amit was also when he was composing, he had done like a few kind of variations, and then he came up with his own acoustic version because it just felt nice and everyone loved the song. And just एक दो composer singer से गवा लिया था, so it was like यार let's just put all out here. There's no point keeping anything back. So we just went ahead.
I guess what I'm also trying to ask is, matlab, what has the response been like? Abhi to khair bahut bade ho gaye gaane. Abhi it's like super well loved and super this and that. But was there any kind of apprehension कि हम बधाई दो टाइटल ट्रैक तो डाल देंगे पर उसके बाद जब अटक गया है डालेंगे या फिर हम किसी सीधे साधे डालेंगे? So the
Atak was
kind of
huge.
visuals they have without seeing the film, was there any kind of apprehension like that?
Yeah, we didn't want to reveal much about the, because Attack in the film actually comes with Gulshan. And we were sure
Yeah.
that we didn't want to reveal Gulshan before the film. So, which is why Attack, we had to kind of cheat throughout what the visuals were, more on Raj, Bhumi, and Kabir and Rimshan and all that.
Yeah.
So that was the only thing. But yeah, of course, the song, it became such a huge hit
Yeah.
the day it came out in Arijit fan club, like, kind of,
Okay. Okay.
but yeah, that was the only thing that we didn't want to kind of reveal much. And
Reveal in the okay.
Yeah,
Got it. Got it. Okay. And Harsha, I just want to know this nice, beautiful thing of incorporating songs that actually give the people from the LGBTQ community. I think it's maybe the first time that people are seeing like a Shah Rukh Kajol romance, but with same-sex couples. Like people have had to grow up with only heteronormative songs and imagine a life in their head about themselves in a different way. But we finally have songs where if two men want to, like, imagine something, we have a song for that. So just a little bit about what sort of a brief was given to the music directors, and even like writing gender neutral lyrics and shooting it in such beautiful cinematic commercial mainstream ways as love songs. Just a little bit about that.
So coming to that, it's a musical. Nobody knew it that it was going to be a musical. Only I knew it
Yeah.
because I love songs.
Okay.
So it started with 3, 4, then we became 5, then 6 and 7. Finally, we have
Yeah.
7. And so, yeah, I mean, I really like songs and songs playing a huge part in the film.
Yeah.
And so the only song, actually, there were only 2 songs which we had before we went to the shoot. Is Badhaai Do we wanted to because it was a Shadi ka song and it's a lip sync song. So
Choreographed also,
it's a
yeah.
choreographed song. So it had to
Yeah.
be fixed and all of that with a choreographer. And again, the way we ended up shooting is not like your run of the mill Shadi ka jo karte hain. We tried doing some TikTok video, funny, doing some, time pass in that also because there was a sham wedding. So we did that. And there is one more song which is Bandi Tot, which we had already. And I had
Okay.
just heard it because we had assorted music directors. We just went with this particular thought that let's go with a lot of music directors. Let's see from the bank and do all of that. Maybe we'll have great choice. In retrospect, I think I hate the process now. But anyway.
you had Manjuria also before.
नहीं, I know. हाँ. तो एक तो ये था and Manzuria we had. So Manzuria was always supposed to be it was in 2 voices because one was Bhumi is going around in Goa, which was on the female voice and then the male voice. So it was always supposed to be 2 songs. We ended up not using the female voice for Bhumi. But yeah, so these were primarily the 3 things. But the concept of, the way, the best part also is that, that you shoot and you shoot with that much. I think we have a feel for the rhythm and space and all of that, like especially the blood testing sequence that happens. So, you kind of do it with some kind of rhythm and shoot it in a way without actually a playback running or anything of that sort. So most of the songs, all the love songs, even Atak Gaya with Gulshan and Raj, or with Chum and Bhumi, which is Hum To Seedhe Saadhe, all of that have just been shot without any song running. But we know that this is going to be somewhat the rhythm and stuff like that. And obviously then it was cut so beautifully by Kirti, that whole sequence of love. And so a lot of the beautiful thing that is happening in the film, especially the end song also, Hum Rang Hai, is the way actually Kirti has cut that whole thing to a particular temp music. So what
Yeah.
happened was actually all these visuals were then I'm just taking a little bit longer purely because
No, for sure.
it's
Yeah.
an interesting one, especially
sure,
Hum Rang Hai, because what happened was we had cut it to a particular song where we all loved it. And we all had given up. I mean, everybody would tell me, sir, just kharid lo wo gana, English song tha wo, and kharid lo, bas karo, nahi hoga, kisi se nahi hoga, kisi ki bas ki
English
baat
song
nahi
tha.
hai.
Okay.
It was actually, we had used it from Jobs ka ek Maccabees wala, Grew Up in the Midnight. And that was the temp track which we had used for the whole entire thing, and it had peaked. So it's there as is, okay? Every song is as is, the edit per se. We have not changed anything. Then we knew that there was no way anybody is going to do this, So we actually, because we had one song from Amit, so I just wanted Amit to do the anthem. So when I went to him, he said, "नहीं यार मैं नहीं करता एक individual गाना." So then finally, बोला कि तू film देख, अच्छा लगा तो दिख कर. He came and he saw the film and he said, "यार और भी गाने हैं क्या? मैं एक तो करता हूँ, और भी बचे हैं तो बोल दे." So there were love songs which were left, one love song.
Yeah.
And so he has actually composed, and Varun has written the lyrics according to the visuals.
Nice.
So that's also the beautiful part, is that they could see visuals which are fresh, which are something that has been told to you and not imagined, because so it was written with the visuals, and it was such a beautiful thing. Yeah, he gave us 3 tracks actually.
Yeah.
With that whole thing, the love song actually. And like hum to seedhe saadhe atak gaya, and we all loved both the songs. Ab kya kare? So atak gaya bhi mere ko chahiye tha. So we ended up using it with Gulshan and all of that. So the brief was essentially, the visuals itself were the brief here. And Hum Rang Hai, we wanted to make an anthem with it. And I think we finally, I think we all are agreeing that it superseded the temp track actually. I mean the anthem especially.
Okay.
Which is a tough one to do. Yeah, even the romantic tracks. It's very tough to erase a temp track which you have heard probably 1,000 times, in the edit and all of that. So if today I've just forgotten it, it's a big deal. Me forgetting is still fine. Kirti forgetting it is the biggest thing that could have happened actually.
Okay. Okay, super. Great that you've only brought up Hum Rang Hai, because the other thing that I really wanted to know, Shikha and I were actually discussing this. The Pride is actually a great high point for the film to end on, for it to be the climax, and you sort of expect it that because the emotion has come one full round circle and you're already crying and this and that. Was it like a conscious decision to structure it in such a way that you have to go back to parents, you have to go back and tell them we are doing this for society, we want a kid and all of that? Because I feel like any other director probably could have also chosen to end the film on the Pride moment and all of that. But give us a little bit of peek into how important it was to go back and sort of address where the parents are now after finding out everything, where the adoption process is now, and then the whole Namkaran scene, the end puja scene.
Yeah. No, Nihit, but like I told you, the first time that I was drawn to the film was the tragedy of it, that they are still, the closet has just become bigger, and once somebody from outside comes in, they all start shamming. So that was always the driving point. It couldn't have ended at any other place but to actually drive home the point to the audience. See, I mean, a lot of them mistake it because people are smiling, happy, and they've gotten a baby and all of that. But it is, I mean, if you look at the end, I mean, for us, even just cinematically showing a fade out when Rimjim gets up and, stands, and everybody else are just sitting and watching. Technically, in reality, that is the end. I mean, they are all started shamming. It's not going to be, but one wants the father to say it, and also we extended that one little bit. But it couldn't have ended on him wearing the mask, because that would have been as if, the take home for a lot of homophobic or generally people would have been, yeah, it's a simple deal. You just have to tell your parents and then you're coming out. That's it.
Yeah.
And it is as heroic as Batman, It's actually a moment which is so euphoric that you just send people out saying, "Ha, Dhoni ne last ball pe six mara."
Yeah.
That was not the point at all. If today it's a talking point, and today that imagery of 4 people sitting on that havan and we freezing on that and the baby, I think that is an image which is probably far more that is actually the driving home point. That is the discussion. I think people need to go back home and talk about it. If it was just that, it would have been a happy tali bajaya ho gaya khatam and go back home, so jao. That was not the point. It had to be a compromise. It is still a compromise that they are all living in, it's not a great situation that they're still making do with this whole marriage and adopting a baby. It's so tragic. So it's actually a tragic end if you really look at it. Yeah, the father but it's just the closet became bigger with probably the DSP also entering in it. So which is why we also did it in that whole house, that small little thing where it feels cramped. And just before the DSP comes, it feels like it's not utopian, but it's such a happy world where everybody's okay with same sex, all of that. They're all cool. Everybody who's accepted in the family. So it was not about just the family. It is more for the people to take home. That it's a tough life. It's every day is actually a coming out in a way. It's a struggle. And that one needs to understand. So in no way it could have ended at that. And people did suggest us a few, not too many. A few. You can end it here, It's a classic end. But most of us in the team agreed that this should be the end because finally it's the
driving point is that even after coming out, you do end up living as a compromise, at least in today's Indian society. So that makes a lot of sense. I'm just going to take one important Shikha question since she's the boss, and then we'll start wrapping up because we've taken up a lot of time of yours anyway. The Shikha question is about the character quirk of Rajkumar Rao, who we see has some sort of an OCD maybe, who shuts doors 3 times and switches on and switches off the lights 2-3 times. So that is one. So tell us whether that was written into the character, that was part of how you constructed it and just did not explain it. And then I have a follow up to that as well.
No, actually, we had not written it. But Raj actually, just before coming on to the film, when we were reading the script, so he said, I just want to put in some physical thing that is there. So I also don't know why I think Sheeba would be a great person to explain why actors want something which is a physical thing, maybe take their mind off something. I don't know. It's probably his process. So he wanted it because it just made him, focus on a lot of other things rather than just the lines or whatever. So he just did it, and it was a superstition, and so many things were discussed. Finally, we kind of agreed upon this 3 times door opening, or he does it a lot of times. And the fun part was, it was a test always that whenever he would come and we would see, अच्छा इसको दरवाजा, इसको कुछ तो करना है, हम याद नहीं दिलाएंगे, देखते करता है क्या. And साला हर बार किया उसने. भी याद, he had a drunken scene also, उसमें भी किया.
Yeah, I remember this.
We've cut it off a lot of things because otherwise anyway लंबी picture और लंबी हो जाती, so इसलिए थोड़े जगह पे निकाला.
Okay, coming from that to actually Sheeba ma'am also, because like you said, you would be able to tell us what the actor process is. Shikha also actually saw your character do it in a scene, and we were wondering if that is us reading too much into the film, or did you actually do it to sort of match Rajkumar's character, or what was that?
What did I do?
Shikha, you want to jump on because she's the one who spotted something.
So on the second viewing, I was watching it in the theater the second time, and I think I was just watching it so intently. I think I saw you do it once at some place where you also kind of did something twice or thrice, and I was like, wait, the mother also has it. I don't know, I'm not sure.
Clearly not,
And I was just so
Shikha.
surprised. But
Unexpectedly they come.
so then it must be just me. I don't
Yeah.
know, but I
Yeah.
really wanted to bring it up because I was so like, I was like, oh my God, wait, the mother also kind of has that little thing. Is
What?
it there? Is it not there? I'm not sure. What am I seeing? So I just
We were
wanted
like, what level are these people functioning on? What are we catching? जो है वो भी जो नहीं है वो भी.
No, but actually, if the similarities in terms of characters happen, I think it's
Yeah.
bound to kind of go from one to the other, and
Yeah.
it's actually the way viewer is watching it.
Sure.
Like even that particular line कि माँ बेटी दोनों एक जैसे हैं.
हाँ.
अक्षत ये भी सेट पे हुआ था. म्यूट पे है तू. म्यूट पे.
Who?
हाँ नहीं बिल्कुल शार्दुल की कॉपी है ये सेट पे करा था.
सेट पे ही हुआ था because we kind of started looking at it and there were so many similarities which kept happening and so yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe it was
Super.
just me
Shikha,
then
happy?
picking up on.
Yeah. Okay, so just to wrap up from all five of you, I want to know what is the most unexpected place that you found love for the film in? Obviously, friends, family, critics, everybody has liked it, but has there been an incident where you didn't expect that compliment to come out of that particular person or that particular area? And has it surprised you that such and such a person is also capable of appreciating this? Whoever wants to start, but I really want to know from all of you.
Like I know a friend of mine, yeah. So we have known each other for quite some time. So he's junior to me. So when he watched the film and he said, I am also a queer. So that was a big moment, like
Okay.
accepting and coming out to me after watching the movie. That was like really overwhelming for me.
Yeah, so I think reaction. I don't think anything has shocked me or done anything of that sort. It just made me again, like Suman is saying, overwhelmed or happy or just those articles which kept coming. कि थिएटर में he actually stood up and he said हाँ मैं गया हूँ क्या भाई bro ये वो. And we and Akshat were speaking to somebody yesterday and so we were just having a chat with that person and she said my brother has just come out. I mean she congratulated us and said brother has come out and to the family and all of that. So I said nice. Yeah thanks, but how did our film play a role? So that's when she said that what my brother did was he showed it to the entire family. They have seen the film and then over a Zoom call he's come out to them and the reaction of the parents were pretty much nice and mild and accepting. So your film has kind of helped and given him strength to actually come out and all of that. So that I think is something shocking. It's so beautiful to know that a film can do certain things.
I think what it also does is for somebody who's not come out of the closet, it tells them the entire picture. You've not seen this on the screen before because you've had no representation. So you're thinking of a worst case scenario and your film shows the worst case scenario and then cuts to 1 year later with the hope of maybe the father saying yes or something. So I think that is how the film must have, inspired people to either come out or accept themselves or like that. Yeah, Akshat, you have any reaction?
I don't have a surprising. The surprise was how my sister cried after watching the film. She cried after a good 10-15 minutes, and Sheeba ma'am was there. And she just couldn't control her tears after watching the film, and she just kept on crying. I had to kind of go and pacify her, and even then she couldn't kind of control her tears, and she constantly kept on saying, "Matlab, I can understand the guttan that people feel if they can't come out to their own family." And she and Sheeba ma'am was looking at her, and she also kind of, her eyes kind of welled up while looking at her. The way she cried after the film. I mean, that reaction has stayed with me. I mean, because
Yeah.
it's so close to home. I mean, your sister crying like that uncontrollably. It was just, I mean,
Can I also come a little chota sa? Actually,
No,
it
no,
started
please
with
go
the
on.
first screening
Ha,
of ours.
ha,
First
ha.
and second is the first time that a cut was shown, and it was all to the Jungly team, the creative team and the marketing and the theater. And I can't believe it. I mean, that reaction was something which probably will be super special
Nice.
for me and Kirti, and that it was insane. They were crying for half an hour, 1 hour. They just kept talking, calling again and again. I think that, as a studio, as a producers, the way they were overwhelmed and then they kind of, stood with it is
Yeah.
not shocking. Again, it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. No, I think the only complaint that anybody has, including me, with the film is that my first text to everybody after watching the film is I'm dehydrated. Matlab, you brought about a medical condition in people, which is not fair, but yeah, let's decide to move on from that. Please, Anu, please tell us your reaction or like,
Yeah, I was about to say the one that Harsh mentioned, when we were actually
yeah,
tracking all the reactions, and there was, no, not the studio one, sorry, I'm in the theater one. Because that's so empowering, for someone. I mean, I can imagine the pain that, there are few audience who are calling and out and all that, and then someone just to stand up and, take them head on. That was beautiful. And the one surprise was from my dad. I mean, obviously very conservative and all that, and he saw the film. I asked him kaisa laga, and like, "हाँ, ठीक है." And then he kind of avoided the conversation. And 10 days later, I was just at home. I was just singing Hum Rang Hai. And then he kind of brought up the conversation and not looking into my eye, but talking about being gay and homosexuality. It's the first time I've had that conversation with my father in the living room at chai time, and that I felt, okay, this is special. I mean, if I can have that conversation with my dad now, and he's now trying to understand, अच्छा मतलब कितने लोग होते होंगे, कैसे होता होगा ये वो, and that was special. And yeah,
कुछ तो सही किया होगा.
कुछ तो हाँ मतलब, I mean, of course it moved somewhere someone,
Yeah.
by that someone is having that conversation.
Yeah, of course. Shiva ma'am, what was your reaction, and of course about your character also? Did you hear anything surprising?
Not just about my character, just a film, character, whatever. But the film, that's nothing dramatic, but two small things. One, there's somebody tagged me in a video for Mother. I don't know if any of they saw it. It was just wonderful what she was saying. Yeah, it's like somebody in their probably late 50s, or I don't know, at least I don't know. But just the thing of कि यही तो है, मतलब look at it now, broaden yourselves. It's two people who like each other. Why? Let's now stop it. Let's just stop the nonsense now. In one way, she said it beautifully, and just to see somebody of her generation, her age, just it's just so it's like a call to be accepting, and not just, I mean, that this is the way forward. How can we not be this way? It's so fabulous. And second is some very young child messaged me 2 days back. She's from my daughter's sort of circle of knowing, is already identifying as a lesbian person, and she messaged me, and her message was just so beautiful, and that a child of or a young person of that age, about 16, is now looking at herself and looking at the world, and she's just started on this journey of forever having to come out, and already getting a sense of it, I'm sure. And then to come across this film and it hitting her, to tell from her message, it was like gut wrenching for her, and hopeful and just beautiful. So that was lovely. Yeah, these two things were
nice,
really close.
Nice.
Yesterday we read that dear Shadu's mom.
Yeah.
We all read that particular post or Instagram thing, whatever it was.
She's here. The one who wrote the post. She's here in the panel.
Oh, really?
Ayushi is here.
Yeah. Ayushi, okay.
Ayushi, I think I haven't read anything.
Ayushi, you want? Shikha, you want to?
Yeah, Ayushi, would you like to come on?
So beautiful. It actually teared me up. especially that last line क्या मैं आपको मम्मी बुला सकता हूँ बना बुला सकती हूँ is just thank you for writing such beautiful stuff, you know.
Lovely. Ayushi, I think you're on with
That's Ayushi.
panel.
Yeah. Hi.
He
Thank
has
you.
written for each of the characters, and each of them was so beautiful.
Yeah. Each one beautiful, but then when I read yesterday, I actually teared up. I mean, I'm so this is beautiful, you know.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Ayushi.
Thank you.
So did I, you see.
Hi,
full,
ma'am.
full cries.
Thank you.
Because I'm going to write back to you. I was too overwhelmed last night, but I will get.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Ayushi. The last question that I want to ask is a very journalist question to Akshat and Anup. What's the next frontier? What barriers are we breaking next? What is the third one in the? Yeah, what is the third one? Akshat, please.
I really don't know. I mean, this was never supposed to be Badhaai though. So I mean.
नहीं जो भी पर I'm sure जंगली आपको कहीं जाने नहीं देगा अभी तो please let us know what is happening. The only thing we know for sure is Sheeba ma'am is going to be in it. So, apart from that,
of course,
वो पता है अब बाकी बताओ.
Basically,
and Anup will be in it.
Anup तो है ही मतलब Anup is making it happen. So.
See, the thing is, it's. I mean, I'd never approach films like that. I mean, it's never. He is subject में film बनाते हैं. If an idea feels interesting, I mean, the only thing that I can see in common between Badhaai and Badhaai though is that it's about dealing with embarrassment and shame, something which has kind of been put up on you by the world outside. So in that sense, I mean, that's what I found interesting. I mean, had it been, I mean, and we kept on discussing it amongst ourselves, Suman, Harsh, and me. That had these guys been had they been very empowered people, had they been about their sexuality, then probably that was not the story that would have interested us. The fact that they're lonely and they're fighting with it themselves is something that interested us. I mean, the fact that they're kind of dealing with it on an everyday basis and trying to live a life with dignity is what's interesting. That they have a secret that which they think that will not be very palatable to the larger world. That's the interesting bit. Their loneliness, their is the thing that kind of really propelled us into writing this film. So I don't think, I mean, there is anything that I have in mind which I would say would fall into this franchise, if there is a franchise. But it's basically, if there is an interesting idea, तो बधाई लो भी हो सकता है, बधाई कुछ मतलब उसके
अब लो ही बचा है, अब कोई शब्द नहीं बचा है.
वो तो बहुत सारे लोग कमेंट्स में ही बोल रहे हैं कि बधाई लो लिखोगे इसके बाद.
लो भी तो लिखा है, एग्जैक्टली.
तो ऐसा कुछ नहीं है, मतलब it's basically what the idea of it interests you, then you kind of go on the journey and then you realize whether it will become a film or not.
Okay, cool, super. I think that's our time.
But I hope you guys had fun. Did you all have fun?
Yes, we did.
Yeah.
Okay. Should we sign off? Thank you so much, guys.
Neat, you were too good, yeah.
Thank you, Neat.
Thank you. I'm just like, I come across like I don't have a good vocabulary because I keep saying it's beautiful, but you really made a beautiful film. And बहुत कम होता है कि as a writer you have no complaints with a film. So kudos to you guys, and please keep doing this excellent work, and looking forward to lots more from you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, guys.
Bye-bye. See you.
Bye-bye.
Subscribe to our YouTube channel and never miss an update on Film Interactions.